Oh yeah, so JJM Spurs says the only thing his complaint about the game is that he wishes he could have like more of a first-person sniping perspective, like say in Vigor, for instance, where when you zoom in with a weapon, you actually are looking down the sight, and you can look down a scope and stuff like that. Yeah, we considered that. One of the reasons why we rejected it, well, partly our game had limited time and money, and we had to cut something, so that's one. But one of the reasons why that particular thing was challenging was because, and this is a thing you don't think about very often, the more the player can zoom in on the environment, the further you have to render things at high detail. Oh crap! Okay. Oh crap! I did not actually need to go right in there. There. That's what. Anyway, so basically, most of the time we use what were called LODs, or level of detail models, where like each object in the game, it's got sort of the high resolution version that you see when you look up close at it, but sort of embedded in it as an object, it's got alternate versions of it that appear when you're far away. And at some point, each object has got a distance at which it just disappears and doesn't render anymore at all, in many cases. And so when you're looking, really close at something, you expect it to have a lot of detail. When you're looking far away from it, you don't need a lot of detail on it, and it's okay if it's just a little smudge, and it's a little, in real life, you're looking at a very low poly model, but you can't tell because you're so far away. But if you have a scope, you can zoom in and see the low LOD model, and so that means that we have to stretch out the distance at which you can switch to the lower LOD models, which means that your entire scene has got more polygons in it, which means it's harder to render, which means the frame rate gets worse. Or it means you decide that the entire game has to be lower poly so that you don't have to do that. And so it's basically is part of the sort of the tug of war between wanting to have really sort of like high resolution, high detail models and wanting to have good performance. And that's already a complicated problem to solve. But then adding scopes into the game complicates the problem even more. And so that was one of the reasons why we sort of like kind of justified to ourselves that we were not going to include scopes in the game. And again, part of it was just there's a lot to do, and eliminating that meant that there was one less thing to do. And that's really important for getting a game actually shipped and out to players instead of it just taking forever. But the reason why that was also attractive is because it made making the game performant easier to achieve. And when you've got a lot of like very challenging goals when it comes to your graphics and your performance, and limited time and resources to achieve them, finding a shortcut like that, finding a thing you can eliminate that definitely makes a lot of your problems go away, is really, really attractive. But but there's definitely not a reason why, having a scope in a game like this couldn't work. It absolutely could. Design-wise, there isn't a reason why we should not have scopes in the game. It's entirely like a technical and resource question. And so this game did not end up with scopes. Maybe someday if we figured out a really good sort of way to balance it, I could see someday maybe adding that feature. But it's also like there's 900 features we could add, so I wouldn't bank on that particular one. But anyway, it's not impossible, and there's not a reason why the game could not support it, theoretically.